Guys, I just got back from Detroit, Michigan, and I've seen the future of automotive world.
Does it have anything to do with electricity?
Yes, it has a lot to do with electricity and pickup trucks. On this episode, I want to ask this question, hopefully answer this. How about this, Jay and Nathan? Are EV trucks coming sooner than we thought or not?
Controversial.
You want me to simply answer that now and end the broadcast?
Yes, please answer.
Yes.
They're coming sooner than we thought?
Yes.
Okay, well, I want to expand on that.
Okay, we're all done. guys.
Bye.
Saved you guys a half an hour and
everybody. Have a
change.
good week.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining TFL Talkin Trucks podcast.
Actually, there's a lot to talk about with that. But I wanted to, before we get started, we have some great shout-outs coming up from Patreon, and I was hoping that we could cover that.
Yes. And in this show, we always do news segments, and we also do a Q&A. But like you said, we have to thank our supporters. Pete Chavez has donated recently on patreon.com/TFLcar.
Yep.
And also J&L Automotive donated. So thank you guys. Huge, actually, support. About $15 a month coming from these guys each. So,
wow, thank you.
And it sounds small, right? But when you add up all this together, you get the podcast shows.
You do indeed. In fact, guys, thank you very much. If it weren't for your support, we couldn't do what we are currently doing. And most importantly, that money pays for Andre's fine haircuts.
Thank you.
Does it?
And that's the only thing it pays for.
Yeah, because I don't need that haircut money.
Maybe it'll buy you a new baseball hat, Nate.
So as always,
No, thank you very much, guys.
I just wanted to introduce us a little bit. If you're not watching this, if you're just listening to it, I'm Andre.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Jay.
Yeah, our producer Jay. So I want to start with my experience at actually Pontiac, Michigan, at the M1 racetrack there. I was there with Magna, and I was able to tow some heavy trailers with an electric heavy-duty truck. So that's kind of what kicked this off. But we also have much more news to discuss.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up, including the F-150 Lightning. There's a lot of news about the Lightning, some stuff you guys might not be aware of, including news that has to do with moi.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Really?
And also supercharged V8 goodness.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up near the end, but we're also going to talk about Rivian and Lordstown and the nosedive they've recently taken.
Yes. So let's start with my experience at the Magna Tech Days. So Magna is a tier 1 supplier. And they invited me and several other journalists.
I think you need to be even more specific with our audience. Tier 1.
Sorry, let me explain. So it's a major tier 1. Think of it as like really, major components for automotive. So every vehicle, car or truck or SUV you see on the road right now may have a component from Magna and some of the other suppliers like Bosch, and there is ZF, several others.
Yeah.
Magna builds big components like transfer cases for Jeeps,
Right.
Trucks like Chevy Silverado. They build now battery enclosures for electric pickup trucks. They build actually whole vehicles like the G-Wagon and Unimog in Europe.
Now, from what I understand, Magna is a worldwide company they're based in Canada, but they have a huge German presence, or I should say European presence.
Yes.
But they also are supplying parts to other countries that don't sell vehicles here. So even, China, Vietnam, you name it, Magna's there, and they have a massive presence and a huge footprint. But Andre actually had a chance to sample something very special from them.
Yeah, they call it the Intelligence Force electrified heavy-duty truck. So if you've been watching TFL for a while, I actually went to Upper Peninsula in Michigan and drove this prototype, and it's basically started life as a GMC Sierra 2500 heavy-duty pickup. And then they plopped out the V8. The gas V8 was gone, and they replaced the rear axle with what they call E-beam. E-beam has an electric motor, basically assembly inside the axle.
Okay.
And front has an electric motor as well. So it's all-wheel drive.
So it's an E-beam front and rear?
No. So E-beam, think of it as a solid axle in the rear and just a little electric motor, smaller electric motor in the front, still independent suspension in the front.
Gotcha.
So, and what they're trying to showcase is that you don't need to redesign an entire truck in order to electrify it, because the axle can be replaced, attached to the suspension, boom, and the front engine can be removed, and in its place could be an electric motor.
So I'm guessing, similar to what Jeep did with, if you remember, the Magneto, by yanking out a majority of those components, then they can put in batteries and sort of offset the weight, because let's face it, batteries are extremely heavy, in order to make the vehicle somewhat drivable still, right? So this vehicle, I'm guessing, was covered with batteries.
Actually, it's a demo vehicle, and in the frame, so the bed is empty. The bed looks normal, like it would look normally. But they they mounted the batteries within the frame in the middle, where the gas tank used to be, and where some of the drive shafts used to be.
Okay.
Because no longer drive shafts are not needed.
Completely unneeded. So what about under the hood? Is there extra? I mean,
Yeah, there's
Is there
a
a
chart.
frunk of some sort?
No, there's not a frunk. There's a couple of radiators. They have air conditioning system still is in this vehicle, electric one, and they also have a charger, basically. So there's not a frunk. It's kind of just a showcase of technologies. And then they said, Andre, here's a 10,000-pound trailer. Take it around this road course.
and how did that go?
So that's where this question came up, right?
Ah,
So, and I want to get your opinion, Jay, of course, and Nathan. So, heavy-duty trucks are they're working vehicles.
Yes, they.
You know, a half-ton truck like an F-150 could be a leisure vehicle, could be a weekend vehicle, right? Could be a daily driver. But heavy-duty trucks primarily are working trucks. What the system can do is it still tows the same as a gasoline truck, about 14,500 pounds. It still has a similar payload. But here's the kicker. The battery they put in this demo vehicle is relatively small, about 80 kilowatt hours, less than the Lightning, in fact, even the smallest battery in the Lightning. And although my towing experience was limited to a racetrack, because this is not technically a street legal truck, this prototype, I noticed, so obviously acceleration was good, with 10,000 pounds. Deceleration was okay. They talked about regen braking and also braking on the downhills. I didn't experience any downhills during this, but just there's almost no range.
Right.
I know it's a demo vehicle, but in this technology in the heavy duty truck, they're still said it's about 2 to 3 years away from production.
This is a proof of concept. I'm kind of guessing based on the fact that, that is a very small battery for a vehicle that weighs, I'm guessing, 7,000 pounds plus.
Yes.
And what we're talking about here is really the axle. That's what they were trying to show you, right? That you can throw this in any truck and have the ability.
A bolt-on application, yeah.
Right, and then you can tow an
Heavy.
exceedingly high amount of weight, and at the same time put it in any real pickup truck. In reality, if they built a shorter version of it, you could put it in a mid-sized truck or something along those lines. I think that tech alone is the whole point of this. The range with that tiny battery, I'm guessing, is just like, okay, we want to make sure it gets around the track so you can tow, and we're not really aiming for long distance range. If we were, it wouldn't be an 80 kilowatt hour battery.
It would be something else.
Something twice the size or something like that, right?
Or 3 times.
Exactly, and especially because you're in a heavy duty truck, which can handle that extra weight, right? I mean, that's the guess.
You would hope.
You would hope. Okay, so that's my defense of that whole thing. I know where you're going with this.
Yes, but what are some of the other challenges with electric towing, Jay?
Stability?
Well, no, I'm just talking about like kind of day to day. I mean, charging.
Oh, of course. There's
Right.
the charging, and you're just going to use a lot of juice because towing is tough.
So
Takes a lot
our
of
viewers, and I agree with this, especially for heavy duty vehicles like this. There are almost no pull through chargers. You know, when you come up to a diesel station or a gasoline station, you can pull through with a trailer. You can fill up relatively quickly.
Right.
A lot of chargers, even the high, really level 3 high speed chargers, you have to either pull in nose first or back into. What do you do with the trailer?
You're absolutely right. That is one of the many issues that are out there with chargers. There's some very interesting possible solutions for that, though, that recently came up. One of which is smaller, somewhat portable charging stations that will allow for pull-through. Now, they're actually perfecting this in Africa, and they're running basically level 2 right now, but they're hoping to bump up a little bit, because they want to get the continent off oil, and for many reasons.
Yeah.
And these could easily work their way into our market. And the cool thing about this is that essentially they're similar to like a gas pump in terms of their overall design. So if you think about it, perhaps something like this could go into rest areas and various gas stations so you can pull through. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm saying that this is a possible solution out of many other possible solutions. I also am saying that even if with the pull-through, even at level 3, it's still 2 to 3 times easily as long, if not 4 times as long, to fill up your battery as it is the equivalent tank of diesel.
Yeah, and it could be longer.
It could be an hour.
In theory, yeah. So this is why everybody is really excited. I'm also excited about the F-150 Lightning. But there's still a lot of challenges, including the network, like the charging network we just spoke of.
Right.
And actually going, hauling trailers, hauling payloads, everything that's taxing. Although these trucks are quick, fast, and actually great to handle, in fact.
Right. And it's a very interesting point that I wanted to make about electric vehicles in general on the positive side, which is for those people who commute, who actually have to drive their truck or car through a city, then suddenly the benefits are even better because regenerative braking, stop and go traffic, it all works out for better distance, essentially. Highways are what really kill battery electric vehicles, and it's something that's going to take a long time for them to figure out. And also battery weight. All of this is being addressed. It's going to take time, but it is happening. I would love to see in the near future a truck like this with the equivalent of a 300 kilowatt hour battery. So it could go, 800 miles or tow, let's say 10,000 pounds up to 150 miles without a problem. That I think can happen in the next couple of years without no issue. I think it can really happen.
But is it sooner than we thought?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's my point.
I don't think so.
No, but you're wrong, Andre. As much as you're the truck expert and people worship you, there's actually a picture of Andre.
Who worships me?
Well, Mr. Truck does. There's a picture of you with incense like next to it, and a little picture of a truck underneath you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're Mr. Truck Jr. So anyway, but the fact is that this is still new tech, and I'm not trying to throw it into people's faces because diesel trucks are far superior for this right now. Mm-hmm. But for lighter loads, both hauling and towing, I think that electric vehicles are getting closer every day. And something else happened. Can I quickly mention this?
Yeah.
Totally off topic, but on topic.
Okay.
A friend of mine decided to experiment with a 1,000 watt, basically a 1 kilowatt hour battery cube that he charged using solar panels.
Like at their house or something?
Right, it's a portable one.
Okay, yeah.
And he has a Chevy Bolt EV, right?
Okay.
So he decided to empty about half the juice out of the car, charged this thing up, plugged it into his car, which he was able to do, and he was able to get an extra, I think he got 4 miles out of it. Now, I know that sounds trivial, 4 miles, what's the big deal? If you're off-grid, and you lose your power, and you have one of these things, you can actually, he has to charge the battery separately, then he can charge the car. He can't just plug the panels.
It's like bringing a as can with you.
Basically it is. Yeah. But he gets that, and he's like, what he decided to do is, first of all, he plugged it in, got about 4 miles out of his car, extra, right? Which could get you out of trouble.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to push an electric car. And he also decided, just for the hell of it, he strapped the solar panels to the roof of his car. I wish I had a picture of this. As he was driving, he was charging up his cube. And he got about half the charge that he needed out of the cube to maybe put in another mile into the car by the time he did his very slow 4 miles. The point is that this tech, if it just could move a little bit further along, could be a really great way to stay off the grid, to power your vehicle, not have to worry about getting a portable generator or whatever else if you have a problem on the road. Imagine this for a truck. Imagine a larger system like this for a truck. The potential is there. I say, TFL invests in flexible solar panels, and we strap them to everything we own that's electric.
That's it. We're going to tell Roman this as soon as we're done with the podcast.
Including ourselves.
Well,
yeah. We should be wearing these on our back.
I nominate Jay to go and talk to Roman about this, and we will not take credit for it, and have Jay convince him. Congratulations. Welcome to TFL.
Thank you.
It's all on you. Okay, sorry.
So good luck to me.
But you see my point here is that the tech is coming, and this type of cool stuff is potentially out there.
Yeah. Jay, where do you kind of stand on this? I mean, Nathan, you're saying, I mean, the world is ready for an electrified pickup.
Yes, I think it's ready for the
quiet.
starting. Right. Okay.
What about you, Jay?
I don't think we have an answer just yet, just because the number of EV buyers out there, what are they, like 1, maybe 2% of all new vehicle buyers right now?
Actually, they've gone up extraordinarily. What was just 2% a couple years ago?
Yeah, what is it now?
They're thinking it's between 5 and 6% by the end of 2022. If you think about that, that's extraordinary growth.
Right, you're right, that's really fast growth. I think that as mainstream automakers, I'm not talking like Rivian or whoever's these smaller guys, OEMs, GM, Ford, as they keep launching more and more, and keyword affordable EVs, you're going to see the whole industry, the infrastructure, cash up really fast because there's going to be that demand. The EVs are going to be more and more accessible than ever. You don't have to spend upwards of 6 figures for one of these now. They're no longer going to be of the elitist.
Well, very good point, and that actually brings us to our next point in this, which is the Ford Lightning Pro. Very good segue, Jay, because
I do what I can.
That is going to be one of the, well, at least it's starting truck.
Well, this is not the Pro.
No, it's the
we're
picture.
We're showing a picture of the Lightning.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, we're showing a picture of the regular Lightning. The Lightning Pro is essentially the entry-level model. It's sort of the working person's version of it, but most importantly, it starts at $40,000. Now, it comes standard with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, four-wheel independent suspension, room for 5, a full pickup bed, all of this stuff, plus the capability of an F-150. And that's $40,000. Now, if they can maintain that, I know dealers are going to screw with those prices big time. I'm hoping Ford will find a way to put the kibosh on that. But the point is, that's extraordinary. Ford did the same damn thing when they brought out the Maverick. The Maverick was extraordinary, $20,000, and you got yourself a hybrid cheaper than any other hybrid out there, yet it was still a pickup. This is just like the beefier version of that to a certain degree for the common, person who just needs a decent truck for short distance. And that is, of course, where you're going to go with this.
Yeah, and, well, 2 comments. So, first of all, I love the Maverick hybrid. Right.
Yeah.
Love it. I was just talking to our friend Dan Atkinson. Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had an accident. Somebody hit their vehicle, which was actually a Chrysler Pacifica e-hybrid, which they had. And now they're looking for a new car because nobody was hurt, but they're looking for a new vehicle. I said, Dan, you might like a Maverick hybrid.
He's a Ford fan anyway.
Yes. And he said, Andre, I cannot find one. If I did find one, they're marked up and they're not around. Right. I mean, they're sold out for like a year.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Yep.
That's
now Ford is not even taking orders for the 23 Maverick until sometime this summer.
Well, there's a disclaimer that you have to click on the screen when you actually go to look at them on the build component of the site, which basically says,
So, I mean, in theory, it's amazing. The uptake on the Maverick has been amazing too. I mean, they sold 9,600 of them last month in April,
which is extraordinary for a brand new vehicle.
So that's amazing. I'm afraid a similar thing might happen to the Pro, right? It's affordable,
right. Yes,
and it will be hard to get. I mean, if you did order one a year ago, like most initial Lightning orders did, you might be able to get one, right? But if you're ordering one now, it's going to take a year or more maybe to get it. And also, I cannot believe that price. I know it exists.
Yep. Tommy and Roman were having this exact same debate in our previous podcast about the price of the $40,000. Just to put in a greater perspective,
I know Ford said they make money on every vehicle, right?
But we don't know how they're going to make money on this one.
Well, by building a lot of them. That's all. Ford.
That's what they're good at.
Yeah, they build in mass, and that's the whole point. There are a couple of things. First of all, I will be going to this event, by the way, which is coming up very soon. By the time you hear this podcast, I think it'll be just a day or two before I actually leave for the Pro event. The difference here is that it will be focused on the truck and people who have been using the truck for a while, so we can get a report on how real-world driving impressions are with this vehicle over time.
That's what I really want to know, because this could answer my question of this episode. And
Yes.
we'll talk about it in future episodes.
Indeed,
as well.
we will. Yeah.
I think, so first of all, I love the idea of the Lightning Pro. Makes sense. It's affordable. Somehow Ford found a way. using their economies of scale and
Exactly.
reusing the cab, reusing the bed, reusing some other components.
Yeah, a lot of components,
like
actually.
part of the frame is the
A
same.
lot of interior components too, yeah.
Steering wheels, etc., etc.,
Yeah, yeah.
etc., seats. They found a way to do it. They also found a way to offer us, different trim levels of this truck, going all the way up to $93,000, which is pretty insane. But of course, you get a lot more for that fully
course you do.
loaded Platinum. But still, I'm coming back to this problem where it is the energy density. So the battery, even though you get 100 kilowatt hours in the basic Pro, you get 131 kilowatt hours in the extended range Lightning. Even though you get those bigger battery sizes. By the way, I saw the enclosures, the battery enclosures. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
tell
looking
you
for
that in a
yeah.
second. If you talk about diesel or gas, a gallon of gas is equivalent to about 33 kilowatt hours. So this truck has like between 3 gallons to 4 gallon-ish of energy equivalent. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Which is cool to think that this truck is actually usable with that amount of energy. But when you tow and haul, I'm afraid
Can eat it up.
it's not quite enough.
You know, it's an interesting thing. Just the other day, I was not too far from your house. So Andre lives in Thornton, Colorado, which is south of Boulder. And I'm in Denver. And I was in between the two places. And I noticed a lot of utility trucks for the city and for the state and whatnot. None of them were towing. They were hauling just a little bit of stuff, and they were going to sites as survey vehicles. They were also going towards the railroad area and all that. So, and I looked at all of them, and it's like, oh, they're not towing. They're hauling a little bit of stuff, maybe a couple 100 pounds, maybe 500 pounds at the most. They're hauling a couple guys with helmets. And I'm thinking, now that, if I had a fleet of those, would make a lot of sense for something like the Lightning.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And I think Ford agrees too.
Well, they do, because they actually have a whole grid and an entire algorithm based on how people use these vehicles. And so if you buy those for a fleet, they actually have this whole setup for you online that you can use in order to keep an eye on these trucks. Everything from energy consumption to service times, also driver habits. All that stuff is part of this whole system, which is really cool. But personally speaking, as just a regular dude who commutes every day, and I rarely tow, but when I do, it's it was a light trailer. I still think that something like this, the Pro, might be the way to go. I commute, at the most 100 miles in a day. The truck could do it.
Easily.
Right?
230 miles in the basic one.
Right. Yeah, go home, plug into my level 2. By the next day, I'm good to go again. And entirely possible that I soon will have solar power in whatever house I end up owning. So that means that could be subsidized, and then suddenly it's not as expensive to charge a vehicle at home. There are lots of ways to go about this, which is why I think Ford is not only kicking butt with this truck. I think that other people, such as General Motors and maybe even Ram, are thinking we really should have been on the ball on this one.
And Ram too.
Well, that's why I said
And
You said
Toyota.
Ram, yeah.
Oh, you said
Oh,
Ram?
yeah, I did say Ram, but also Toyota
And General Motors, yeah.
and I did, but also Nissan to a lesser extent too,
Yes.
whatever. But I think that right now is the time for these guys to kick into high gear and produce various sizes of electric pickups, so they can be competitive and hit it now. Hell, forget the Nissan Ariya. Put a pickup truck bed in the back of that thing and stretch out the wheelbase and then introduce it. Bring it out. Don't mess around. Yeah.
You heard it here first. Aria pickup truck. Well, no.
Probably.
I have another problem. So,
Okay.
so remember we had the Rivian truck.
Yeah.
And we can talk about some of the news items now too.
Oh yeah, let's hit it.
We were able to test a
there it
Rivian
is.
truck, a pickup R1T,
Which is a really good truck.
It was amazing in many ways.
Yes.
Heck of a fast little pickup.
Yeah, it moved.
It beat our TRX in a drag race. It always had really great performance. It has 4 motors, over 800 horsepower.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice ride, too.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice ride. Highway cruising, no problem. We even did an ike gauntlet with it, with a little bit of charging. And then we towed a small camping trailer
Right.
for long distance to see the range. Except every time in the real world, I know what the marketing team says, but in the real world, charging was always an issue. The speed of charging.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous. We haven't charge the Lightning yet, right? I mean, I don't think Roman had time at his first event. Maybe you might have a little bit more time at your event.
That's one of the things I'm really hoping to do. Yeah.
So, or at least get a real world perspective into it, and hopefully, we order the Lightning at TFL Truck.
Right.
Hopefully, we'll get it soon, and we'll be able to actually put it through its paces.
Yeah, we have a couple plans. We can't talk about them. Where we're going to do some special things with the Lightning, provided that we get it on time.
Yeah, but I want to charge in the real world. You know, actually on my way home at Walmart or whatever at the grocery store.
The biggest question mark is not just the infrastructure for charging, but also the charging itself. And it's not standardized, and it really should be. One of the things that politically I'm not getting involved, but I think that because they're putting money into the infrastructure and building up these chargers and everything else, I think that they should be standardized for how they accept our money and how much power they produce. And they have to also provide that real world information for you. Do you guys realize that when you plug in your vehicle, you're actually losing a little bit of that energy simply transferring through a wire?
Because of heat, a little bit of heat, right?
Right, and it depends on the ambient heat outside, and also there's so many things. So what they need to do, and I know they have the ability, so this is not even a question, is they need to have essentially a mathematical number at each one of these things saying you can get A, B, or C amount of charge from this particular one. And so you know going in how much you're going to get. At least we know right off the bat, instead of charging it in and just like, oh, I hope I get lucky, which is essentially what's happening right now. Fortunately, I think that they know this, and it's right now the early days. Yeah. So between a proper paywall that everybody can use, hopefully a credit card like you use at a regular gas station instead of calling.
And easy way, yeah.
Easy, quick in, quick out, done, plug in. And also more of these things available, more level 2, 3, and 4, whatever. They also have to have, and you're absolutely right, a consistent amount of charge available for every single customer.
So it's predictable.
Exactly.
Right? Because let's say you're not an enthusiast. You're not working for TFL Truck. Let's just say.
Okay.
And because most people are not. And let's say you're just going about your day. And last thing you want is to have unpredictable fuel in your vehicle.
Right.
Because you don't know. Can I fill up here? Can I not fill up here?
Well, and imagine that. Imagine going to a gas station, putting diesel or whatever into your vehicle, and it's like, oh, it only gave me 4 gallons. I need 12.
And it trickled. What if it just trickled in?
Yes, really, really slow.
Yes.
And that's where we are right now. And so that infrastructure needs to change. And I know we have the tech to do it. It's a question of commitment, and people need to do that part. I absolutely agree with you on that.
It should be no different when you get fill up your combustion engine vehicle.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's going to happen. It should be exactly the same thing with EVs.
And I think we'll get there. I'm just saying it may not be maybe this year.
I
think it'll take months or years potentially.
There is good news, which is a lot of people are beginning to understand that charging from home is a huge potential savings, especially if they do it certain ways at certain times and all that. Ford has some great software for that. So does some other companies. And putting in a charger, a level 2 charger at home, a lot easier than it used to be. A lot easier.
I actually have one at my house. I wired it into the laundry circuit.
I used to plug. I used to plug with a splitter, so I have a switch and everything else, and even a little extra fuse on it.
Yeah, mine was a little bit rednecky, a little bit too. I ran an extension cable from my laundry room into the garage.
Yeah.
Using the exhaust vent of the dryer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
who needs that?
Well, my dryer is now different. I have a 2-in-1. My machine, my washer and dryer on the same machine.
See, you're like James Bond. You're so cool.
Oh, yes.
Clever. So
I kind of wired it myself because here's another issue. My house is a little bit older. It's about 30 years old. Well, not that old.
Old. My house was built in 1953. Keep going.
All right, Nathan wins that one.
My fuse box at my house is full. Just the way it was built.
Right.
So adding another fuse box, running extra wires, it could be thousands of dollars. In fact, one of the electricians came by and he quoted me $3,000 to wire my house for a level 2.
It's remarkably expensive, potentially.
But I was able to do it on a budget. I think I spent about overall $800. So I bought an extension cable, which was about $150. I bought a little station, just a regular level 2 station, which was like $600. I think it was Juice Box.
Juice Box is one of the,
Yeah. So you can do that.
Yeah. I did it even cheaper. I did it for about $300 altogether.
How?
I got the extension. I got a splitter for my dryer, right?
Yes.
I got a switch. So that way you shut it
dryer,
off.
yeah.
And because the last thing I wanted is to bake a fuse with my wife, like trying to fuel the car. And yeah. Anyway, so, and then running out, I got basically a portable level 2. And that costs a couple $100.
Okay.
And that's it. And I run the extension all the way outside to my daughter's car when I need it. And I've only used it a couple times. All the other times is 110.
I got suckered into the juice box because you can monitor it like on the
Yeah,
net.
see, mine is just you plug it
The
in.
point
and
being
you
is that there's really affordable solutions here already that you can do
exactly,
yourself.
and then there's other ones. My brothers who are in San Francisco and Bay Area, okay, they got a full box unit and they had to have their house wired. Their house is also really old. It's built in the 40s. And their house had to have all new wiring, and yeah, it cost them about $3,000. However, they did get a rebate from the state, and I think that's another thing that you can get in some cases.
Yeah, depending.
Depending. So there's a lot of potential out there, but I agree with you. The consistency of the charge, that's really what the problem is.
Yeah,
and Tommy
it is.
has gone through that. How many times? That poor kid is 50 years old.
And he's only like 25.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just, he's going to go gray soon, or he'll just turn into his father. But the point is that he's noticed so many times charging that there's inconsistencies everywhere. The good news is it's getting better, and that there are some companies that are more consistent than others. I am going to call out ChargePoint because they've been a little bit more consistent in my book than some of the other competitors, and they're very easy to pay for at the site, so to speak. It's really easy.
But there's another problem, Nathan.
Okay, hit it.
It's smaller companies actually struggling to produce pickups and gain traction in the marketplace.
Who could that be?
I'm speaking of Rivian. Mm-hmm. We do have a Rivian truck still as our image here in the studio.
Right.
Recently, bad news.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we should talk about it.
Why
I mean,
not?
their stock price is at its all-time low.
Why?
Because big investors and reportedly Ford everybody knew Ford invested in Rivian.
Yeah.
But recently, the rumor, the information we have is that Ford is selling off a large section of those shares. Mm-hmm. And the price is like near $20 a share for Rivian, where it was $179.
It has dropped.
They're in trouble. It's dropped significantly over a few months.
Not as much as some other automakers out there.
Lordstown?
That's where I was going to go.
Ford is selling 8 million shares.
That's the information we have. Ford is selling 8 million shares, and it's part of that big drop in price. So why is Ford selling? We don't know exactly.
There's many possibilities out there.
Technically, they're competitors.
That's part of it.
Technically, Ford and Rivian are competing at some level, at a certain level.
Right.
Yes.
So let's talk about Lordstown.
Okay, Lordstown is another company.
Lordstown is where to begin.
Lordstown, basically a company based in Lordstown.
Lordstown, Ohio.
Ohio, yes.
What did they used to build in Lordstown, Ohio? Quick.
Chevy Cruze.
You got it.
Oh, I did good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually a half-decent car. I kind of liked it. But anyway, that's a whole different thing.
So they basically kind of took over this factory. They have a very unique concept for a pickup truck. It's got in-hub motors.
Right. You should clear it. But if you guys could see the photo, you can clearly see the motors. But if not, they're in the hub.
So nobody else is doing it right now. Everybody's putting the motors, like we said, Magna in the axle, in the differential.
Well, actually, correction. A lot of people are doing that, but with smaller vehicles like motorcycles, scooters.
Much smaller vehicles. Yeah.
They have
nothing like a truck of this size and weight and capability, which is impressive. But
nice concept, right?
Right.
But they have yet to deliver a single truck. I mean, they've been talking to us for how many years? I mean, 2, 3.
I'd say close to 4 years at this point. Yeah, since the change. They've had a lot of problems with certain executives. They've had certain issues about supply. They've had certain issues about numbers.
And the bottom line, not delivering a customer truck yet. And also, we haven't driven one. I saw it at the show. And I saw it at the Work Truck Show in Indianapolis.
Right.
And that was still a pre-production one. The interior wasn't completely finished. There were some concept pieces in the interior. A A lot of it was finished. It appeared to be finished, but some pieces, like I said, were not. And we're still waiting, and their prices at their all-time low as well.
Yeah, their stock numbers the last time we checked were at the lowest ever, which was under $1.50, I think, a share.
Or the $1.54 or something like that.
Or
Yeah.
it was bad.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because we want more competition. Having more competition forces everybody else to up their game. Everybody else. But
Yes.
this company, it's not looking good. So then again, if you want to invest at a very low rate, now might be the time for both.
Boy, that's a risky move.
I know that's insider trading.
I love the stock market, and I also really hate the stock market.
Yeah,
Because sometimes it sounds tantalizing, and sometimes I'm like, really, with everything happening in the world, do I want to invest in something now?
Yeah.
And the answer is usually no. But they're struggling. It's not a good sign for pickups, as far as electrified pickups is
See,
concerned.
I disagree. I think that the startups have their own issues, and that's based on the fact that they're sort of like, in many cases, they have to inflate numbers or inflate certain images and inflate this, inflate that. And yes, Rivian is delivering and selling some vehicles, which is great,
Yes.
but nowhere near what they were essentially supposed to be doing. And I believe that I have not seen a single official van that they're supposed to be building for Amazon on the road yet.
Which is not a big investor.
Right, a huge investor.
Cheap investor, I think.
Yeah. So those issues, those are not the same issues that are going on with Ford. Ford is now up and running and will be selling an electric pickup. Rivian's selling one. Soon General Motors will be selling one. Soon we'll see Ram selling one.
General Motors technically has a Hummer, but they haven't sold many.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
price
consider the
tag,
Hummer part of this whole thing. The Hummer is a toy that's built for off-roading. It is not what an average person who needs a pickup truck would buy for a daily driver, right? The Lightning is much closer to that, I think. So there you go. There.
We're also seeing a real difference here between the legacy OEMs versus these startups. Mm-hmm. Remember, not so many years ago, Tesla, what it must call it, like production hell for the Model 3. And they got through it. Yeah. They got through it. But these smaller guys like Lordstown and Rivian thinking, well, we can just fight through it like Tesla did. Well, you got these sleeping giants that are now awake with all electric trucks, starting with a Ford Lightning.
That's a really good point.
And
Ford
it's
is
like,
awake.
and what Ford does, you're going to see, Stellantis, GM, they're just going to follow suit in Detroit, and eventually Toyota, as always. But like, they might have missed their opening.
And why are we not talking about the Cybertruck? I
Because-
can tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can tell you.
Tell it.
Because it doesn't exist.
There's a factory being built for it, but there's still no truck.
True, the Cyber Rodeo.
So what we did see, there is evidence that they are working on it. We recently had some images that we got our hands on a few months back of the Cybertruck with mirrors on it.
And a big windshield wiper.
And an actual windshield wiper.
Yes.
On a proving track. So they are still working on it, but until they get into something that's going to resemble production, we honestly can't say that this truck exists. As a matter of fact, the configurator, everything on their website pretty much that covered the Cybertruck was taken down.
Yeah, there's just one page.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And, I'm not trying to single out Tesla saying you're doing something wrong. Hey, delays happen, but this truck has been delayed half a dozen times.
Yes, and so I was rooting for the Cybertruck. I mean, it kind of shocked me when I first saw it, when it was unveiled. And
do you remember when that was? When they first unveiled the prototype?
November 23rd-ish, 27-ish.
But what year?
2019.
Yep. And where are we now?
Well, we're 3 years, almost,
Exactly.
2.5, almost soon to be 3 years after that.
And the lead up to that, by the way, was almost 2 years of Tesla,
of
the
teasing,
rumors,
and
right?
the rumors.
Yep. And Elon mentioning it.
It has a shocking design, at least a shocking.
Oh, well done.
Okay.
Shocking design.
Yes, electrifying shape. But I was kind of rooting for them. I'm like, they've proven, they have a track record. Like, they delivered Model 3, they delivered Model Y and the Model S and the Model X and everything else. And let's see what happens. And then the further we went, the more distant the Cybertruck became. So that's why I'm not talking about it too much.
Yeah. I really do hope that within a year we see something that's a positive result Instead of just bringing people buying, with a spotlight on Elon Musk.
With cowboy hats.
Yeah, let's look at the truck, show us the truck, show us what it can do, prove that your investors, made a smart decision, because a lot of them are frustrated because they thought by now they'd be driving one.
And Tesla is going to very shortly could have the same problem as Rivian, and specifically Rivian, and that the legacy OEMs are going to beat them to it.
They already have.
But once you get GM and Stellantis on board, Tesla has the potential to lose out on people who were going to go for say a Lightning instead. They're going to be not stuck with, but they're going to be left with the Tesla fans only.
Yeah, and then
they can't broaden their buyer base.
The final component of that is that Tesla will have to outperform these guys, and I think they'll have a hard time doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because their timing was before. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2021, the original promise was their time, and they missed that time. Oh. And now Ford is here.
Ford jumped in and
although
took
GM, I mean, we've seen the 2024 Silverado EV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still, it's 2024, technically, model year, which is coming in about a year from now.
Right, but you're going to get your hands on it most likely within the next 6 to 8 months. That's my guess.
Yeah, maybe we'll see another one. We'll see another production, more production-ready version.
Right.
And then GMC is going to show us a Sierra EV sometime this year. Also sometime this concept.
Right.
And then Ram is promising a 2024 Revolution truck.
Right, and the Revolution's going to have a couple different things going on too.
Yeah, but it's still not this year. Maybe at the end of this next year.
Well, that's okay. I get the impatience part, but the point is that Ford's leading the way. The other two are coming on hard and strong. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. And yes, if you want to be technical, Hummer's already out there too. Hummer beat Ford to the punch in terms of production, even though it's just a ridiculous vehicle in terms of price.
And they haven't ramped up its production yet.
And part of that has to do with the fact that there's a material shortage with a lot of components, and that's hurting everybody across the board.
Yeah. So finally, we've talked a lot about electrification.
Let's go to a big V8.
How about we talk to a giant, monstrous...
There it is.
Oh, boy. One of the biggest news of this week was actually not electric.
Yeah.
It was the 2023 Cadillac Escalade V. Finally, we have the specs, the numbers, the engine.
The price.
And the price.
So I'm a big fan of Vs. One of my favorite vehicles was the CTS-V wagon.
Ooh, with the 6-speed manual.
Yeah, Roman and I, early on, 8 years ago, I think it was, drove that. Did some of our earlier videos, maybe even 9 years ago. And we absolutely loved that car. It was just a hooning, awesome car that had some logical tidbits on it.
Now it grew up.
Exactly. Thank you.
Did they take your line?
No, it's totally fine.
Okay.
It's grown up.
But he's right.
And what they finally have done is they've taken the 6.2, they've thrown a supercharger on it. It's a lot more than that. And they put it inside an Escalade. So now I believe the entire fleet of Cadillac now has a V version. Am I right?
And it's glorious.
It is glorious, isn't it?
Well, let's talk about that V8 here.
Let's dig into this one.
Hit it.
6.2 liter V8 has been there before. We have a picture of the supercharger as well here. If you're watching us on TV.
Yeah,
how big is that supercharger?
It's an intercooled supercharger, by the way.
Water to air intercooled 2.65 liter, just for the supercharger itself.
It's bigger than most people's engines.
Yeah, it's bigger than most small car engines.
Yeah, the displacement's massive. It's got a twin scroll turbocharger to it. It's really, if you could see this image, it's actually a fantastic image of the supercharger itself. And I don't know how much it takes to crank that one, but I know that in the TRX case, which has a supercharger nearly that size.
Yeah, just a little bit larger
just slightly larger. It's like over 70 horsepower is required just to turn it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it's similar to this would be similar.
So the way, if you're not familiar, superchargers work is actually it's taking the power from the crank of the engine itself.
Right.
Using a belt, and it's turning this basically a compressor.
Right.
Like Germans would say.
Compressor.
And compresses the air so you can jam more air into the engine and produce more power with more fuel. Mm-hmm. Right. And the power rating on this, are you ready?
Hit it.
682 horsepower.
Wow. That is impressive.
There's the full engine.
But mention the torque as well.
653 pound-feet of torque.
Damn!
A little bit more than the Hellcat motor in that TRX.
That's a torquey engine. So the power and torque It's all being fed through a 10-speed automatic transmission into GM's fancy all-wheel drive setup. And you told me that it's both wheelbases,
yeah, you can get a long one in a V2.
Ah.
Can you imagine that ride rolling through Manhattan or something?
Just imagine a Chevy Suburban that size.
That can
with that
accelerate,
engine.
according to Cadillac, in
Yeah.
about 4.4 seconds, 0 to 60.
That's extraordinary.
Which should
Wow.
match the TRX acceleration, really. I mean, or maybe even better it, because this truck weighs around 6,000, maybe a little bit more, this Escalade, a little bit more than 6,000 pounds. But so,
There's more too, right? With the suspension and the engine actually and all that.
yeah, so they updated the top end of the engine, they updated the transmission to handle the power.
Right.
You can height adjustable suspension, you have, and then there's the price.
Okay.
And you have all the luxuries too. I mean,
Oof.
we didn't even talk about the luxurious interior. Jay, do you have an interior picture really
I
fast?
believe I do. Hang on.
So
There it is.
There.
yeah, everything that they could throw at this vehicle, they've thrown at it. So what you're looking at is a fully loaded luxury sport SUV. I think that's the
A
best
giant
way-
one too.
Yeah, pretty much as big as it gets.
Yeah. And the price is $149,990.
Ooh.
And I think that's kind of an all-in price. I mean, when you order the V, you choose the color of it, basically, and there's not many options to speak of. Although you can get a longer wheelbase, like we said.
Yeah, which is
So
even more money, I'm guessing.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So basically 150 grand for this Caddy. That is one of the most expensive Cadillacs. Period.
So Jay, what would you say this compete against? Because it does not compete against any other big three, I would say.
No,
I mean, the Grand Wagoneer is there, but now this stepped over it, right?
Yeah,
On power and everything
We're
else.
definitely into Range Rover territory here.
BMW X7M.
Yep.
How about like a GLS, like an AMG, like a top-of-the-line version of that?
Yeah.
Basically, you're going with all the luxury
Alpina,
foreign brands
Alpine.
here. Yeah.
Maybe German, yeah, and others.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary amount of money, but I'm sure Cadillac would just say, "Listen, this is a very short run because it has to be. GM is moving all electric, and eventually this is going to be a thing in the past. You're not going to be able to get this in a few years."
So it's coming on sale this summer as a 2023 model. So in the summer of 2022, I'm hoping this though. I'm hoping they'll find another home for this engine. How cool would that be if they had a pickup truck with this engine to fight against the TRX?
What pickup truck could you be thinking of?
AT4XX
Yes.
or triple cool supercharged Sierra Silverado ZR2X.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm willing to bet there's an awful lot of people out there who are like, why is this engine not in those two vehicles? But that also means the price of those vehicles will go up considerably, and they'd be just as expensive as a TRX.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, AT4X is already just as expensive.
Cadillac
as
can make the
TRX.
business case for this because Americans love SUVs. The Escalade has a huge loyalty
And
group of
following,
buyers,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
Remember, the Escalade is the only Cadillac that's actually not like a combination of letters and numbers.
Not only that, but it's
Because of
also
branding.
it's their best seller. The
Yeah.
Escalade has been one of their best-selling vehicles for years, for a good reason. People like it. I got to tell you, that hood emblem, not big enough.
You want bigger?
It's got to be bigger, and it should be the round crest. That's what people like. I'm just saying, it's not what I want. It's what the people want, and I want to give the people what they want. By the way, what do you think of the design?
I especially like this color. I'm okay.
Yeah.
The front is growing on me. The rear is good. They have unique wheels. I think it's all good. I actually get to drive it in June.
Yeah, you do.
Nice.
Yes.
Andre.
Yes. So I'll
for
bring you
you.
first drive impressions very, very soon.
When I grow up, I want to be Andre.
Oh, thank you. Jay, do we have a couple questions from our viewers?
Yeah, let's do those real quick.
Because we are, I think, ending near the end of our show.
Absolutely. Let's get to those.
We don't have any Patreon questions at this moment.
No, we do not.
At least recent
But you guys are
ones.
welcome. If you are a Patreon, ask a question. We will answer it directly and directly to you.
And we'll prioritize your question, obviously.
Sasamundo.
Right. Now, this is regarding last week's podcast when we talked about the ZR2. BC Country Guy wants to know, will you be deactivating the cylinder deactivation?
So, okay, I think I know where this question is coming
Okay.
from. So there is a bit of confusion because due to the component chip shortage, some trucks for 2021, 2022 models from GM did not have their dynamic fuel management software because of those computer chips were not there.
Right, so they still wanted to build a vehicle and get it to the customer's hands.
So they were able to remove that feature but still create the working vehicle that it is.
Right.
But they had to decrease some of the fuel efficiency numbers, obviously, because it wasn't quite as efficient as it was.
Right.
So it's still not clear which vehicles are built with that or without it. I'm for it, especially the latest dynamic fuel management system, because it's kind of does a round robin. It may turn off certain cylinders without you even knowing it, and there's no driver perception. Like, you don't know what's happening. So I would not disable it. I think that's what those are the question. Will I want to disable it? No.
Okay.
Will I want to disable the start-stop when you come to a complete stop? You know, the engine shuts off.
Yeah.
In the ZR2, that system is still a little bit shuddery. You know, where it restarts.
Yeah, I hate the delay at some of those things.
So even after all these years, there's still a little bit it's not perfect.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I might want to disable that feature, but as far as fuel management itself, I would leave it if it's there.
Especially with gas costing what it does. I mean, why not try to get slightly better mileage?
Yeah.
What's the next question?
Yeah, now Charles Warren wants to know, will the ZR2 fit in the garage? He knows his Raptor, F-150 Raptor obviously, barely fits.
Yes, I believe they are. The ZR2 is maybe a couple hairs shorter than the Raptor.
Yeah, and not as wide either.
Correct. So the answer is yes. Your ZR2 should fit anywhere that the Raptor will fit.
Okay. Now, Big Boy Z this is not as much of a question, but I think it's an interesting topic. Specifically to you, Nathan. Thanks for championing the Nissan Titan. It's a severely underrated truck.
Yeah.
A few other commenters were mentioning that too, that you gave it some loving.
Well, it's only because it deserves it. Look, I'm not a fanboy for any one vehicle. Okay, I admit I love the Power Wagon, but but I also love the Tremor. I mean, I like trucks in general. I like anything that's got power and capability and fun, right? And the thing about Nissan is that they've been producing this truck for a while. Yeah, nobody's perfect, but it's a great truck for the money. It's a solid truck for the money, and it doesn't get much love. And I really wish two things. One, I hope that they find a way to update it and keep it in the fleet, which is doubtful. And two, I hope they make it a little bit more affordable. A little bit more affordable, I think people will go, I wonder if this is the right truck for me. Also, Nissan desperately needs to make that truck more efficient. It's got to have a hybrid or something in the future.
It's not even sold in Canada anymore, I believe.
Yeah, it's completely gone out of Canada.
And the diesel's been gone for a little while, too.
The XD's gone, too.
No, the XD's still here.
In Canada?
No, I'm talking about here in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we just had an XD, actually, so it's still on sale. And we only get the gas motor now.
Right, they discontinued the 5-liter diesel.
I'm like you, Nathan. I think the Titan, they've tried, they updated the transmission, right? It's now a 9-speed. It's a little bit more efficient than it was. Maybe not quite as efficient as it could be. Maybe with a different engine. There's rumors of the Armada getting a twin-turbo V6, right?
Right, exactly.
So if they're related, they have a lot of shared components. So if the Armada is maybe getting a smaller turbocharged engine, why not the Titan?
That's what we have to see. So and it's not. There's so many things that you have to think about. A truck like this really does help employ an awful lot of people. And
also the engine is built here.
Exactly. So it is an all-American truck.
The Endurance V8 is built in the U.S.
Right.
The truck is built in the U.S. Yes, it employs a lot of people. I've been to those factories actually, and
with you,
a lot of
you and I have been together. Yeah,
and very passionate people who work there.
So obviously, I wanted to continue. I think it's a good truck, and I think it is really, really underloved. Someone recently asked me if for the same price, if I'd get an SR5 Toyota Tundra, or if I'd get the equivalent Nissan, I would choose the Nissan.
Really?
I would.
Good for you.
I would choose the Nissan. It has recovery hooks.
Ooh, you heard it here.
Burn! That's your Toyota burn of the day.
Oh.
No, but I also really do like it. I find that I'm more comfortable driving it. I like the seats. It's little things like that.
Well, doesn't Nissan have like those NASA-inspired
zero gravity?
I think on the higher end trucks, but not on the. I don't think on their lower end ones. But it doesn't really matter. The point I'm getting at is that I still think it's a viable truck for those people who really need a truck, a proper working truck.
Yeah, and also, like you said, maybe they should create an extra like affordable version of it.
I think it'd be a
like
fantastic
a stripper
idea.
model where maybe roll down windows,
Crank
cranks
windows.
If they can
Do something.
build a $25,000 truck,
with a V8.
with a
Oh my
V8,
God!
doesn't have to have four-wheel drive, but if you could just make it like that, with the absolute stripper version,
Yeah.
that gives you. Could you imagine? I mean, people would freak for that, but they're not going to be able to do that. Not because they have to make a return on their investment, and they have to actually make some profit.
And there's this trend towards like more of everything. You know, bigger
This.
wheels. Yeah, there's a trend for the,
$150,000 SUV.
yeah.
But then again,
heads up.
but the other end of the spectrum, you have the Ford Maverick,
Yes.
where you can get that with crank windows, and that's what everyone for 20 grand. Hybrid, 40 miles
So,
per gallon.
and for example, Gladiator can be had with
Yeah.
crank windows.
The Gladiator, yes.
The very base model. So there's a trend to go, better and more technology. Let the truck drive itself. But I think people are missing this underserved, affordable market.
I agree with you, and there's
Exactly.
an awful lot of people who don't want to pay subscription fees on radios and
that's a
other
whole
navigation
other,
and other thing. But the point is that having an inexpensive truck for people who really need it is viable and important. Ford sees it. Nobody else apparently sees this problem. I'm being honest, and I'm not even trying to be a Ford fanboy. I would love to see Toyota do it, Nissan do it, GM do it, Ram do it. They're not, and they should be. So there it is. There's my rant.
Okay. And do we have any other questions?
No, there's only a couple more about the cylinder deactivation, but you got it.
Okay. So there you have it. So I would leave the cylinder deactivation alone.
There it is.
Good.
Just leave it alone.
And we're going to leave you guys alone now. We're going to let your ears relax. Please enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. I wanted to throw out a special thank you to Andre because he made sure that I got a chance to go to the Lightning event, which I will be doing next week, and I am thrilled to do it. I've been dying to drive this truck. So thank you.
I haven't even driven the Lightning yet.
I know, that's even a double thank you. I get to do something you are not doing.
I'm
Okay.
just looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's coming in at least a week or two.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
thank you.
We'll have it here.
alltfl.com. Alltfl.com is where you can find us.
That's right, guys. Thank you again.